So I have a list of builds that I still need to do for companies that want to work with me, and also still a couple of old commission builds I have lying around, and I'm working that list down slowly one by one, and this one was the next on that list. So let's jump into it and run through the box quickly first, and then into a bit more detail. Now before we start on the rest of this unboxing, I want to make clear that I was not paid to say or do anything from Highlight Model Studio or any of the other manufacturers you see me using these parts from. This is all my own opinion, they just provided some of these parts for free. In this case I got some parts from Highlight Model Studio to use on this build, and the rest is all paid for by myself. So the collaboration for this build is not with Hasegawa, it actually is with Highlight Model Studio. They make some aftermarket parts specifically for these Volkswagens, mostly the Beetles, and also some of these buses, and they wanted to highlight a couple of their detail up and add-on parts for the interior and exterior, so I thought this would be a perfect kit to work with them on making that very clear to you guys, and also sharing some of my experience using those products and having a pretty unique outcome on these buses that normally doesn't really find its way to the aftermarket. Back in the day when they produced these cars, on the normal cars you would see a lot of chrome, especially on the American cars, and also some of the cars in Europe influenced by that. And of course this bus is no exception, so it has a lot of big chrome parts on the bumpers, even a big antenna piece, some exhaust pieces, and some more pieces for on the mirrors and stuff like that. Now these chrome parts are not to be called bad whatsoever, but great is an over-exaggeration. The mounting points on some of these are not really ideal, and therefore you need to either touch it up or repaint it completely. Now back when you could buy these buses brand new, there were a lot of different trim options, just like on the cars you can buy these days, including some painted bumpers instead of chrome bumpers, and they also added these in the kit. This one is a bit different, it has some trim on top of the bumper and also some of these parts on here, and the same goes for the rear. As you can see, the chrome ones are a bit more clean style, and this one is a bit of a different style to it. If you are a real VW enthusiast, you probably already know this, but most of these parts are exchangeable from some of those Beetles onto these buses, as the main platform was pretty much the same if I recall correctly. If not, then you will probably roast me in the comments down below, so go ahead and do that right now. These parts are really simple, they do their job, look pretty good from far away, and with a bit of detailing and weathering, look good enough to make a convincing kit, and it all fits together really nicely without too much of a hassle. Now the one I'm unboxing here is the 23 window version, so it also comes with a couple of bench seats for in the rear. Just like the chassis, the interior is not too detailed either, but it does have what you need. As you can see here, it's a pretty simple shifter, a nice steering wheel, and also the steering column and some more parts for the chassis. I think this is for the wheel assembly and some different variations for the license plates. So again, the rest of the interior is not too drastically detailed either, but it doesn't really need to be, as the actual ones weren't really full of parts anyway. The dashboard is nice and clean, it has a small radio in it, even place for some gauges, and some other cubbies as well. Another bench, and then the main plate for the interior where you place everything on. That also doubles as the chassis itself. There is a small amount of detail for the engine, good enough, and with a bit of paint and weathering, it will look more than realistic, but you're not able to open that engine cover to show a full detailed engine like on some of those Tamiya kits like the Beetle, but no big drama there, it looks good enough and is a nice, quick, simple build to do. On some of the earlier sprues I had shown there were some hubcaps for on the wheels themselves. To detail them out, you can choose to either put them on or not, and in my case I'm thinking of replacing the entire wheel set with something else, but I'm not sure as I do really like the look of these standard wheels, and lowering the bus a bit, it gives it a really cool stance to look. Now the main reason I'm thinking about replacing the wheels and tires is pretty much because the standard ones look like bicycle tires. Now that does give the bus a bit of a cute look, but if you want to be a bit meaner, then it does need some wider wheels. Nothing to complain about here. It does have a bit of flashing. That means it has some excess plastic, or in this case rubber, that's squeezed between the molds that needs to be removed, but with a bit of sandpaper that is easily taken care of. And as usual with these Japanese kits, you also get some polycaps for the wheels to make them sort of turnable. Now, as you already know, this kit is the 23 window version, and with 23 windows there are a lot of clear parts. In this case there are some parts for the rear and front taillights and headlights, a couple of different versions. As you can see, there are also a couple of different versions for the taillights, or at least the headlight buckets, so you can choose which ones you want. But of course, for the main part there are a lot of windows left over to be done. Now this one looks to be a bit damaged, but I will be replacing those with some Safari windows from the Highlight Model Studio sets that I will be adding onto it. And of course it has some rear windows as well. But that's not even close to all of them. The complete side windows are also included in the kit, and some extra ones as well. They are not in the best of shape, as you can see. They have some scratches on here as well, but with a bit of polishing, or maybe I could even get away with just gluing it in, as they might be hidden, but I'm not sure, but not a big deal. There is also a nice decal sheet included with a lot of details. I believe these are for the vents on the side around the engine, and also some trim pieces all around, a nice decal for the logo on the front, some dash detail like the instruments and some other stuff, and some standard Volkswagen plates. Not sure if I'm going to be using a lot of this, probably none, except for some of the interior parts, but it is good to have, as it does give you a couple of options. The body itself is molded in one big giant piece. Now they did give you the option, with pretty much leaving all of these panel lines out, to cut out these doors really easily to open it and make it display like a sort of diorama with stuff around it, or just give it a cool look inside of the bus. Now I'm not going to be doing that, as I don't really like opening doors, and creating hinges and stuff like that is pretty complicated, so I'm just going to keep it stock and simple, and maybe even fill these in from the back to make it one even panel line all around. You could remove this and replace it, but again, this is just a quick simple build that I'm doing with a couple of friends, so I'm not going to go into super detail, just add on a couple of cool parts.